Alright, welcome back to Gaming with the Hackets. This is going to be like a quick little walkthrough of everything. So, I've gone through some stuff before on my startup and shutdown videos, but I want to make a video that's solely focused on like the actual aspects of this reactor. So, I don't even plan on starting it up, but we're just going to run through it. Alright, so we're going to roll right into this. Hopefully this will give you some knowledge on how actual reactors actually work. I'm in the Navy, and I was a nuclear operator for a long time, and yeah. Reactors all want to do the same thing. Split atoms to make heat. Heat makes steam. Steam makes turbine go roundy. Turbine spins generator, makes electricity. Okay, so we'll start over here. These are all your drains. So if you want to control level, you're going to have to drain something. You're going to have to fill something. If you overfill it, you got to drain it. If your pressure gets too high on your steam generator while operating, you can open this valve and reduce pressure quickly. So all these are for the steam generators. They call them evaporators. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Then you got your condenser drain, which is right here. And the core vent valve. So this would be like, in the case you were having a meltdown start to occur, like say you pulled rods too high and your temperature gets real high, well, you can vent the core and try to get the steam out of the core to prevent, the inability to cool the reactor. So steam is a terrible heat transfer fluid. It's vaporized water, and water is like an excellent heat transfer fluid. So why isn't steam? Well, water, when it touches the surface, you can have different modes of heat transfer. So you could have convection, which is based on currents. So like in your convection oven, the coils heat up, which then creates like a mini current where hot air rises and then the colder air goes down. So you can imagine that like circulating. Well, that's what the reactor coolant pumps do. They circulate water, so it's forced convection. Then you also have conduction, and that's between two different surfaces. Mainly that's between the core fuel and then the core cladding, and then the core cladding gets the heat removed via the forced convection. So if you have steam, the only thing you have is the conduction through the fuel to the cladding, and then there's very little convection that can actually occur. And then the only other form of heat transfer is radiation, where it's based on a large difference of temperature. Sorry, my knee just popped. So think of like the sun to the earth. How does all that heat get from the sun to the earth? Via radiation. So radiation is just a large difference in temperature which drives heat transfer, and you don't need any medium to go through. Okay, so these vent valves are actually to, you can take, oh wow, hey, they just updated this and put a Christmas tree in. I didn't even know this. Maybe I can open a gift. It's kind of a weird looking tree though. Can I go in it? Nope. Alright, back on track, sorry. These vent valves, if you take a look on this panel, oh, that's the bypass. So if you do the trip, well, help if I turn the panel on, Okay, let's click the trip. that'll open the turbine trip valves, or the vent valves. So that what that does is just dump steam, so it doesn't even go through the turbine anymore. And that protects the turbine. So if you start overspeeding, which you've seen in another video, I'm sure, you could trip the turbine, but then you also are going to have to like shut down the reactor or try to get your parameters. Hey, nice. We got a fuel rod. Alright, back to this. So, the vent valves protect the turbine. And I don't think you can... Yeah, you can't reset it, so you have to come over here. That's these three. These are all hydraulically operated valves. So, basically... I don't know if you know what a hydraulic system is, but it uses a fluid that has a lot of pressure to actually drive an operator. So these are being driven by fuel pressure, or fluid pressure. I don't know what fluid they use. Maybe it's oil. Most hydraulics are oil, but you can use water. The water is essentially incompressible and does not make very good. Doesn't make a good hydraulic fluid. Although it won't blow up if you compress it a lot. It'll just destroy whatever you're using. Okay, so let's go to this next loop. This says feed water loop. Okay, this is for adding water to your primary. So you have to put on the recirc valve, or open the recirc valve. I keep saying turn it on, which you can't turn a valve on. You can open or shut it, but... Okay, so say this was low. You could actually click this button, and then it'll take water and put it into your core, and then you'd see it go up. So in scenario 3, the core is completely drained, and you have to fill it up that way. Yeah, so that's the feed water. So keep in mind that's the only way to add water to the core is via this recirc pump, recirc valve, the feed water valve, the feed water pump. Okay, pressurizer is basically like the backbone of the pressurized water reactor. So the pressurizer's only job is to create a steam bubble inside of it to control the pressure of the rest of the reactor so that the reactor liquid remains subcooled. Now we're talking like, you know, this reactor operates at 360 degrees Celsius. So 360 degrees Celsius is 260 degrees above boiling temperature. So if this was at atmospheric conditions, your reactor will boil, and what do we talk about? Steam is really bad for heat transfer. You won't be able to remove the heat from the reactor. Those fuel plates are going to melt down. So the pressurizer keeps the water in the reactor subcooled, and then also it's at saturation conditions. So if steam is to form anywhere, it's going to form in the pressurizer, and it will prevent it from forming in the core. So that's how that works. The core is where your control rods are, your inlet nozzles for your pumps and reactor piping, the outlet nozzles. So the hot water comes in the reactor, well, cold water comes in the reactor, takes the heat from the fuel plate, and then gets rejected into the steam generator. So this is that loop. So this would be, let's see, this is your hot leg, and it would come down, and in reality hot water rises, so that's why they're elevated in the reactor compartment. So it comes down, goes through the steam generator, and then this coolant pump takes the water that's been cooled down and pushes it back into the core to extract more heat. So it just circulates in this loop, and it's a closed loop, has very little losses, so you barely ever have to add makeup water. And then you can have up to 3 of those. And then each loop has to have a steam generator. So your steam generator has tubes that contain the primary coolant running through them to separate the freshwater side and then the reactor side. So basically, your heated water comes through here, and then it goes through a barrier that prevents the water exchange. So it just goes through another tube, and those tubes heat up, and then the steam generator water touches those tubes, and then the heat transfer occurs and makes steam, because this is at a lower pressure than your reactor, because it's open basically to atmosphere. I mean, it's not at atmosphere, but the pressure in the steam generator is significantly lower than your reactor, and you can see that while you're operating. Yeah. So then you've got the steam that comes out of the steam generator, and it gets rid of the water, so it doesn't, carry water droplets. You want dry, superheated steam that has the most energy to do the work. Then this goes through your turbine. The turbines have these different types of blades, and water or steam is like a really sticky fluid. So the water basically hits the blade and then causes it to move because of friction. But then there's several sets of blades all stacked next to each other, and then the steam will go through the blades, and then each blade it hits, it's imparting more force and using up that energy. So as it goes through, it actually cools down, and then once you get to your condenser, this would be at like a vacuum that helps drive the steam to it, and since it's at a vacuum, it'll actually cool water down more than if it was just at atmospheric pressure. That's called subcooling. So you get a subcooled liquid coming through here, which makes it a little less efficient, but you get more energy out of it. And then what's actually cooling down this condenser is this cooling water loop. So your tower, your condenser pump, and then it would go through, take heat from all these. I would imagine there would be like a pump that goes to this and then comes back, this comes back, this comes back. So one pump going to all 3 condensers, so it's going to have a massive flow rate. And that's the other side. So this side, the steam generator side, this would all be like chemically treated water to prevent corrosion here, and then prevent corrosion here and in here, and your pump as well. So this water would be chemically treated, so you can actually get longer life out of your components. And that's why you don't want to use like this water, which is open to the atmosphere. I can show you. Goes to the cooling tower and then basically steams off, and then that creates like a Venturi effect underneath the cooling tower, which pulls cold air in, which actually cools down the that liquid and then gets pumped back to go back through your condensers. So that's the loops, okay? So this is like your steam stop valve. So if you don't want to use the steam generator, you'd close this valve. This is your inlet to your condenser, and then your pump. If you have an issue with something and you need to isolate components, you can shut these valves. If you have a leak in your primary and you need to secure that loop, you're going to have to turn the pump off, and then you'll shut these 3 valves. You probably could get away with shutting these 2, but if there's a leak in this loop, let's say the leak's on this side, that would be real bad, because then the reactor is just going to drain. But if it's on this side, you're only going to void out this part. And then, like I said, you can have 3 of those loops. So, okay, this is your radiation monitoring panel. Basically, it'll tell you if there's radiation, like how much radiation is actually being given off by the reactor. And this really won't occur unless you get fuel damage. So a couple other of my videos, you can see that there's like a green cloud of gaseous looking stuff. That's actually the radiation, which radiation is colorless. You can't see subatomic particles coming at you. This is the waste storage, so you can use up the fuel that you put in the core, and then it gets stored in here, and then eventually you can run a maintenance task, and then he'll say, oh hey, your storage needs to get cleaned out, then you dispose of it, and it costs like 200,000 credits, I think it was. So this, if you click this transport fuel block, this probably has to be on, this probably has to be on, and then it's nominal.
New operating mode established. Nominal mode.
You know what? We'll do that after. I'm going to try to drive the crane and see what happens. Okay, so pressurizer. You control the heaters. The vent valve would be like if pressure got too high and you didn't want to vent the core, you could vent the pressurizer. And your cooling valve is supposed to like spray water. I don't know where the water comes from, but it sprays relatively cold water on your pressurizer, which would actually cool down the pressurizer and then reduce the temp. And this is your generator page. You got the batteries or the generators. There's two types of the generators. They're both, diesel generators, but honestly, this one's garbage. And if you're going to get any, highly recommend this one. It's a lot more efficient with fuel, and then also puts out a lot more power, so you can operate things a lot higher, like your reactor coolant pumps at 100%. Okay, this is your core parameters page. You have your inlet flow rate, outlet flow rate. That's controlled by your pumps. And then you also have the max temperature for the reactor itself, which is 550 degrees Celsius. And then once you go above that, you're starting to get like fuel meltdown. And then max pressure 320, but your pressurizer won't even let you get up that high. So the only time you'll get that high is if, I guess, you get really hot. I even tried to fill up the reactor all the way, like including the pressurizer to go solid, and it didn't work. Although I didn't try something. So maybe we can try something real quick. See if it actually would do anything. Oh shoot, I thought I turned that on. We're gonna open that, see if that'll create a vent path to actually add water. We'll just let that run for a bit. Okay, so it's an optimal temperature of 360 degrees. To get there, you operate the control rods. Control rods control how much. Actually, yeah, I didn't do that. Control rods control how much reactivity gets put into the core. There's a thing called reactivity balance. You have to balance the sources of reactivity to actually control the reactor. So at starting, you have reactivity from all your fuel that's in the core. You have reactivity from any different poisons in the core, so from operating or if they were put there by design, and then also reactivity for your control rods. So your fuel plus your control rods like outweigh the fuel by a lot. So the only way to really get the reaction going is to remove the control rods. And then once you get that, based on your temperature of the actual core, you can start increasing your reactivity level. So if you pull your rods out all the way, obviously there's nothing to stop that chain reaction from the fuel. The rods are what inhibits that, and it just absorbs neutrons to keep it from actually getting to the fuel and causing fission. There's lots of different materials that they can use for that. I think Chernobyl used like graphite rods and graphite moderator, which causes that reactor to have a positive temperature coefficient of reactivity, which basically every time it got hotter, it would add more reactivity. And that's why that was like dangerous, and then they were running. Yeah, it's overloaded. It won't even let you fill it up. Probably gonna burn that up. So when it got hotter and hotter, it actually got more reactive. And then they also had graphite tips that extended down into like the fuel channel. So when the rods again went all the way in, it drove all the water out, and then it was all graphite. So then the graphite, instead of stopping the reaction, actually caused the reaction to speed up, and yeah, then it blew up. It didn't blow up, but pressure got so high because everything flashed steam that it just popped the top of the reactor. Okay, so this is a measure of your activity. If you're at 1, you're at a critical state. If you're at, I think this measures it actually in 10. So if you're at 10, you're critical. If you're anything above 10, you're supercritical. Anything below 10, you're subcritical. So when you first start the reaction, you're going to be subcritical because you're shut down. And then once you start pulling rods, you'll start adding reactivity. You can be like here, and then your temperature can start increasing. Once you hit this core reactive and critical mass, wherever you're at with your rods, you could land right in this green, or you can go supercritical. This is your control rod temperature. If it's too hot, your integrity will go down, and then they'll break, and then there's nothing to impede the reaction. You're going to go supercritical, and then your reactor is going to actually suffer a major failure. There'd be no way to shut it down. Now, I don't know what this would actually do, because that's what this button's for. It's gram, which just means that the rods get like dropped into the core. But yeah, the efficiency is how like it goes down as you pull your rods. So yeah, it says, oh, okay, they say the absorption level of the control rod. So obviously when you pull them out, it's going to go down, and if they're fully out, you obviously can't control the reaction at all. Alright, so your circ pumps, I already talked about these. Slow, medium, fast, you can actually operate them in any range in between, from 5 all the way up to 100. So you could even do 1%. I don't know why you would do 1%. It's not going to give you much cooling at all. But yeah, the inlet is how hot the water coming back from your steam generator is going into the core. So if this is really hot, you could imagine this is really hot. So the closer you get to, the 550, the closer this will get to 550. And then your moderation level is how much you're actually like moderating the neutrons, slowing them down and stuff. And as you get higher temps or you lose water, this will actually go down. So density affects moderation as well. Yeah, well, this just says the level of the coolant, but density does get affected when you heat up. It gets less dense. Molecules spread out. You moderate stuff less and less. And then these are whatever. This is the outer core vessel. So I'm going to actually drain this slightly so we can see the fuel when we put it in. This is like a snapshot, and then you got a little camera system, self-explanatory. Now your turbine, okay? So 3 loops, 3 parts of the turbine, and then you actually only have 1 generator. And when you start up, if you don't ever request to start operations, your turbine will never be able to connect to the city's power. And it's just going to be spinning and spinning and spinning, and you'll never be able to parallel. And then it's going to eat itself, and it's going to break. So make sure when you're ready to start operations, like maybe an hour, 2 hours, something like that, out, click start operations, so then they can give you the go-ahead, and then it'll actually give you the ability to connect to the bus. And then you can parallel with the synchroscope, so you raise or lower the speed, which this shouldn't even exist. It should only be RP. So you'd actually go up to like 3062 or maybe 4 or something. You always want this frequency higher than you're running, and that's so it can pick up some load immediately. So in reality, there would be 0 kilowatts generated when you're not in parallel, because there is no load. So you're only spinning the turbine. You're not making power until you actually take on the load, because that's what power is. It's like the ability to actually drive them. Why is that there? I didn't click that, did I? I thought I didn't click any buttons on that. Well, that would explain why every time I can just click, load it. So the synchroscope, right? And then you can control your voltage and either up or down. And you want voltages matched. So I think they operate 22,000 volts. So you want to get it at 22,000 volts, and then 51 hertz. Amperage you can't really control. So yeah. Oops, not stopping that. And then your steam generators, pretty self-explanatory. That's that pump that fills it up. So it's like condensate pump or a feed pump. And this is your condenser pump, or condenser panel. So this is the pump. Set it at 50% and you'll be good to go. Now, let's go check out this crane, and then we're going to end the video. So, oh yeah, these are shutters. I don't really know when you would use them other than scenario 2. And they'll all be shut. Okay, so we're going to go up to the crane, and I actually want to kind of mess around with it. Oops. See how easy it is to actually grab the fuel. Oh my god, I'm on the outside of this. Well, that's not very safe. Only the bald. Okay, we're gonna... Okay, well I can't get over there for whatever reason. Oh, you... Interesting. Maybe we should do the diesel generator for this. The tank is full. Alright, well, says you. Jeez. See, I wish you could change the camera angle. tell me how to actually rip. Alright, well, I guess it's best to let this thing do its own thing, because I don't know. Anyways, I wonder if you can die from falling, so we'll end this video with a death, if it works. So thanks for watching, guys. Oh no, I can't, I can't get out. Oh, there we go.
Ah!
Yeah! And I got decapitated, apparently. Alright, this is Gamer with the Hackets, and hope this was informative for you guys to actually learn some stuff about the reactor. If you want me to go more in depth with anything, let me know in the comments. Appreciate all the views so far, and yeah, if you liked the video, go ahead and click the like button. If you're new or you haven't subscribed and you want to subscribe, I would appreciate it. I try to put out content every day. Currently it's this game, but I do plan on doing other games, so yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. If you want me to do any tutorials for this game or play a different game, so let me know. Alright, thanks for watching, and I appreciate everything. Hackett signing off. Bye, guys.